All right, so here's something I'm really excited to talk to you guys about. It's a game called Gods on Kickstarter. It's a virtual reality game, but it doesn't require any kind of headset, which is really awesome. It's a game where you are a god and you want to take followers, but you have to take care of your followers. You have to beat other enemy gods, raise an army, and use creatures like tigers, lions, and some other animals to fight them. And the VR just looks awesome. It's a bonus. You don't need a headset. You can levitate things, throw off fireballs, squeeze and move people with your hands. It's like you're a god. I mean, it is pretty much what you would expect a god to be. You can almost do anything. You use gestures to attack, play as different characters throughout the game. It's multiplayer as well. And also, what's really cool, and you don't hear a lot about this, is that they are backed by Facebook, who are willing to help them out with some technical assistance. So what's also great is this game is available on PC, Xbox, PS4, Nintendo Switch, but they're also looking to add full support for the Oculus Rift, HTC Vive, and PSVR. So it's pretty much every platform that you could think of. And right now, virtual reality is the growing trend. And I really would recommend you guys check out the Gods on Kickstarter. And I will tweet out a link that you'll see on my Twitter feed, which I'm at the WWE Podcast. So that link will be available there if you'd like to learn more about the project and maybe contribute and get this game going, because I think it's going to be a really big deal. And I'm super excited about this because I'm a video game fanatic. And when I see something this exciting, I have to tell you guys about it. Again, it's called Gods on Kickstarter. So check that out today, and I think you'll be glad you did. Live event transportation just got easier. BusQuoteUSA.com is ready to put the smackdown on your charter bus needs. They can service group sizes of 10 to 500,000. They have vehicles in every metro across North America. It's no hassle, easy, to-the-point transportation. Arrive in style. Check out BusQuoteUSA.com. That's BUSQUOTE USA.com today.
It's time for your weekly fix of wrestling nostalgia when we look at wrestling's past eras, from the Attitude Era to the Reality Era.
I'd like to think that maybe this company will be better after Vince McMahon's dead, but the fact is, it's going to get taken over by his idiotic daughter and his doofus son-in-law and the rest of his stupid family.
To today, here on the WWE Podcast.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast. It is Sunday, April 21st, 2019, and a happy Easter to all of you listening. Hope it was a happy, healthy one you enjoyed, and now you're kind of winding down at the end of the evening and in the mood for some wrestling talk, because that's what we're here for. This is the wrestling nostalgia portion of the show, of my bi-weekly show. Although, as you may or may not know, I'm trying to turn this into a tri-weekly show. So that's something that I'm definitely looking into, just because this show's growing. And I want to thank you guys for that. You guys are the reason for it. And here comes the shameless plug. But you guys know it's coming. And I really only say it because I appreciate those of you who do it, and those of you who are giving me those 5-star ratings on Apple Podcasts, thank you very much. I recently got one that was not 5 stars, but hey, that's what the rating system's for. Apparently this individual feels I talk about race too much. I really don't remember talking a whole lot about race. This isn't politics. This is a wrestling podcast. I may have brought it up during the Kofi Kingston run, or his climb to the mountaintop. I may have brought that up a few times because it's part of the narrative and part of the WWE history that they have a problem with race, at least in the presentation on television. So I'm not sure where this individual feels that I deserved 1 star because of the fact that I talk about race too much. Interesting. Apparently, like I said, I'm running a political podcast. I didn't know. But anyway, so thank you guys to all of you who are at least giving me, maybe 3 stars. I don't know, 4. or 5. 5 preferably. 5 would be the best. It's also totally free to do. So thank you to those of you who have done that. And if you want all these ads removed, because as this show grows, guys, just so you know, as this show grows, in order to keep the lights on and continue to grow, I need to sell ad space on this show. I mean, that's just the way it is. I'm not hiding anything from you guys. That's what the ads are there for, is the fact that, hey, I need to find a revenue stream to continue this this show and its growth. And that's why you're hearing ads. And if you don't want them, well, there's a way to remove them for just $1, and you just go to patreon.com/WWE podcast, where you can get all of these ads totally removed. None of the ads will be included for you. So if you are interested, check that out. But today is all about the wrestling nostalgia, bringing you guys back in time. And today, I feel like I'm on the Magic School Bus. We are traveling all the way back to the year 2002, to a time when wrestling still had a little bit of kayfabe, if you will, alive. There was still that believability for me. And again, just so I can give you guys a perspective of when I watched this live, in the year 2002, I was 17 years old. So quite an interesting time of my life. I was actually still not partying, which was bizarre to most people these days. I was fairly innocent in a lot of ways. I was hanging out with friends that really didn't do a whole lot of wild stuff. I apparently saved that all for my freshman and more into my sophomore year of college, where I just basically snapped. And so anyway, just now I'm reminiscing about my own life, which none of you care about. So let's get back to wrestling. And I was 17 when I first watched this, and this is Triple H's return to WWF at the time. And he had left, Triple H had left, so I'm going to kind of set the table for you guys, and maybe those of you who haven't seen this before and are relatively new fans. Again, these are all clips. Anytime I bring up wrestling nostalgia moments, these are for your benefit. I don't just bring them up just to make myself feel good. It's good to see these things, especially if you were relatively new. And when I say new, if you've watched wrestling, you just started watching wrestling in the last 5 years, I consider you new. It is a good thing to check this out, because it is a testimony to the respect of a wrestler, and how the respect of a wrestler, irregardless of how he leaves television, can come back as the hottest babyface in the company. And Triple H left that company 8 months earlier a hot heel, a very hot heel. He left WWF at the top of his game, pun intended, I guess, and came back as the hottest babyface. Left as the hottest heel, came back as the hottest babyface. How does that happen? Well, a couple of things, and I'm going to give you guys a nice clip of audio, as I always try to do every time I do these. Number one, absence makes the heart grow fonder. Number two, the respect is there from fans for the heel. Even though Triple H did a hell of a job throughout his career being an amazing heel, other than his stint with DX, he was a very, very good heel and a top heel for years. And he did a great job at being that hated villain on TV. Great job at it. And he came back. The fans missed him they missed his presence because he was, while they weren't cheering for him, they respected his performances, and they were able to enjoy the product they were watching, because the hero they were cheering at the moment, which is likely either The Rock or Stone Cold during that time, or even Kurt Angle to some extent, or Undertaker, were able to beat the holy hell out of Triple H and create so many good feeling moments, even though Triple H wasn't the protagonist in that almost every situation. He was a part of the equation and the dance partner for the protagonist to elicit the emotion of happiness and joy, elation, and living vicariously through your hero by having such a bad guy of Triple H. So it was almost forgotten that you hated him so much because you were so excited to see him again, and he was such a big piece at the time, a huge piece of the WWF. So without my rambling continuing here, let me just give you guys a little bit of audio from that night in Madison Square Garden in 2002, where Triple H returned to action, and it was more, let's say, specifically January 7th, 2002. And let me just give you guys some audio, and then I'll give you some of my thoughts on the other side of it. So that's Triple H returning in Madison Square Garden, one of the biggest arenas, most famous arenas in the entire world. And an amazing reception. No, I was not there. But it was one of those moments that you remember how much you hated him, but he just earned the respect of you, for years and years. And you had enough time to hate him. You basically, as a fan who hated him, loved to hate him, were able to get out all of that anger so that when he returned, it's like, hey, I know this guy. I respect this dude, And what made it even better, if maybe you guys, some of you may remember, if you are a fan of WWE or WWF at the time, you may remember before they had Triple H come back, there were some training videos and some surgery videos, and I believe it was Beautiful Day by U2 that they had a video of Triple H going through physical therapy and talking about the sacrifices he's made to get back to where he was and how it's all he wants to do is get back. And that's you can respect that, man. I mean, that is something that, regardless of what you thought about him before, humanized the guy. And it created that moment of transition and that moment where you just said, wow, like this is a real person. I really respect the injury. That's a real injury that sidelined him, and it took 8 months out of his life, and look how much sacrifice and hell he's going through to come back. I mean, how can you not respect and love that? So it turned him, it was just a feel-good story, turned him babyface. The rest of that clip is him saying he's back and the crowd going crazy, and then Kurt Angle interrupts and Kurt Angle gets a pedigree. And he ends up feuding with Kurt Angle for a little while. Interestingly enough, his babyface run doesn't last that long. He ends up going back to being a heel, and so that doesn't last too long. He creates Evolution shortly after, and then you're off and running with Evolution, and we all know what happens there. So Triple H comes back, huge babyface pop. It was, there are a few moments that stand still as a wrestling fan. I try to choose those moments for you guys, the ones that remind me every time I watch it why I love watching wrestling. I don't just like to pick these random segments of, let me just see what somebody else's top 5 is of the Attitude Era. I go through my own brain, as scary as that may be at times, and I rattle my memories and say, hey, what moments in history of wrestling in my mind were those moments that stood still and were ones that, reminded me why I love this product. This is one of them, and a ton of others, as we will find out through this wrestling nostalgia segment that I do every week now. I think that it's a good thing for those of you who have never seen wrestling to see these moments. While you may not see the value in them in 2019 and you didn't live through them in real time, it's still important to see the reactions that these stars are getting and compare them to today. When you compare them to today, there's almost no comparison. Some of these pops are legendary, and you have nowadays, I don't know if it's a shortened attention span in general in the world. I think that's a part of it. And the fact that WWE has basically cannibalized their own product at times by telling you that it's not real. So there's little mystery left. And it's just not a focus on stars. It's a focus on the brand. I don't like that. I don't like when the brand is built above the stars. You know why? Because the stars make the brand. You will have a more successful, more well-known brand. Your brand awareness, to use a marketing term, will go up if you have stars that are made. If you put your stock and put your efforts in creating new stars, it will, by effect and inevitably, create more brand awareness for WWE. But instead, they're doing the opposite and doing the reverse, which is, let's put the brand above stars, and then you have 50-50 booking, and when someone gets really hot, it seems as if they just inevitably cool themselves off, or management seems to cool them off, or, it's time for somebody else to get a turn. And it just seems as if the brand is always put above the star, and you can hear it in the promos nowadays, where, I'm so excited to be in WWE. Oh, it's my dream to be in WWE. I worked 15 years to get into WWE. No. Stop kowtowing to these corporate suits that put the brand above the star. Obviously, WWE management controls what the narrative is in terms of the storyline on air, of course. But don't make that the on-air, transparent story that is actually the reality, right? We want the star to at least be presented above the brand, and unfortunately it's not. And I think that's what's missing a piece, one of the things that's missing from today that was not there back in 2002 and the Attitude Era before WWE went public. And, now, even the style of wrestling today is about spots and not about performance. And when you say performance, it's, oh my God, how many OMG moments can I create? How many holy, chants can I get? How many this is awesome chants can I get? That's to me not necessarily the telltale sign of a successful match. To me, at least when I look back during these wrestling nostalgia memories of mine, there wasn't this is awesome chants. People just reacted. They reacted from their gut. They didn't, think about this. In your own life, when something's super exciting, when you're at a concert, okay, and your favorite song comes on, or you're at a sporting event, football, hockey, basketball, baseball, you don't sit in the stands when something's going well and something awesome happened and say, this is awesome. You don't do that. You just react organically by yelling or cheering. You don't go through the extra step of thought process to say to yourself, oh, this is pretty cool. Let me formulate a chant to vocalize how cool this is. That's not the normal, that's not a organic, in the moment human reaction. That's a learned behavior from fans that listen to other fans through television and through attending live events of what to do when something's awesome. We chant, "This is awesome." And I have no problem with chants, but they've become secondary to, or I'm sorry, they've become primary to the secondary organic natural reaction when something's awesome. It shouldn't have to be thought out when you are engaged with a product that you love and something that you love happens. Like, think about this. If you're not following me, you think I'm going way too in depth. Think about this. Okay, ready? It's bottom of the ninth. Game 7 of a championship series, ALS, the American League or National League, if you're not into baseball, it's the championship series, okay? Game 7, your team is down by 1. There's 2 outs. Bottom of the ninth, there's a man on first, and somebody is up to bat. And the batter hits a home run, a walk-off, your team wins by 1 run and advances to the World Series. Your reaction, if you're a massive fan of this team, isn't to go, "Oh my God, this is awesome, this is awesome." That's not your first reaction. Your first reaction is cheering, is yelling, is whatever. It's not a formulated sentence. It may be one word. It may be yes or "Oh my God," a quick phrase. It's not "This is awesome." No. Because now, unfortunately, that's what WWE has become, and people that are looking at these matches are saying, "Oh, well, that's the standard and measuring stick for what a great match is." And I say, no, it's not. These chants, while they're sometimes clever, to me, does not dictate an emotionally invested match. It dictates hey, they're doing a good job. Like, I thought that was there's a couple great near falls. There's some great chemistry here. There's a lot of great athleticism, and that's wonderful. But that's the culprit of a spot fest rather than an emotionally invested, simulated sports wrestling event. If you're invested in something, you're not going to just start chanting. You're just going to react organically, okay? So I don't want to repeat myself, but I think I've made my point. And unfortunately today it's all about the chants, and the crowd wants to get engaged and they want to be a part of the show. And I understand all that to a point. And I'm not sitting here telling everyone to be good little fans and eat everything WWE feeds you and to go along with every storyline. That's not the point. I think that fans should be loud, should be vocal, should interrupt whenever they feel like interrupting anybody who's performing on a live stage. And any wrestler or insider on the other side of the tracks who thinks otherwise, I would love to have a conversation with them, because that comes with the territory. If you're at the Hall of Fame, or you're at the Cauliflower Alley Club, or some kind of formal event that's not a live, fictitious wrestling event, then of course, I don't believe in any of that. I think you should sit there and just shut your mouth and applaud when you should applaud. I really believe that, out of respect. But when you're in an audience that is supposed to be loud, and you have wrestlers complaining that the what chants, they're very annoying. But if you're interrupting a heel promo, or there's somebody that is presented as a babyface that you should actually believe is a heel, and you're interrupting their promo, and wrestlers get mad at it. Jim Ross has even got mad at it at times. I think that is something that, hey, it's the nature of the beast. Okay, you are in the wrestling entertainment genre on a live format with a live audience. Okay, to me, that should not be something that anybody can complain about. So anyway, I'm going a little bit off track, but in general, the wrestling nostalgia portion, I'm bringing it back, is number one, that Triple H reaction was organic. It was real. It was from the gut. It was no thought needed. Just react how I want, how I feel. And that's how the fans felt in that moment, going crazy for Triple H upon his return and letting them know that, hey, we missed you, bud. We may have booed you, but we respect the hell out of you. And we are so glad you're back because you gave us so many great moments when you were here that I want to see that again. That is what it was all about, and especially, as I said, those training videos leading up to it. More recently, if you want something a little bit more recent, when Seth Rollins returned at Extreme Rules, I think it was 2016. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was either 16 or 17. And Seth Rollins returned after leaving as a hot heel in the Authority, coming back and getting cheered like crazy at Extreme Rules, and WWE turns him heel. Huge mistake. Huge mistake. That's another perfect example. It parallels Triple H's return. Not to the magnitude of Triple H's return, but significant on its own rights. I think that Seth Rollins, had he stayed babyface at that time, would have been a hotter babyface than he is now. Because the crowd said, hey, you have shown us what you can do in the ring. You've taken your lumps in front of us. You have shown that you love this business. Let us show us that respect back to you. We have had our time to hate you. It is now time to love you. And unfortunately, WWE turned him heel, and nobody wanted to see it. I didn't want to see it. It was uncomfortable because I said, what are they doing here? What are they doing? I mean, it was Seth Rollins returning at Extreme Rules. I said, before that, I said for months, when Seth Rollins returns, imagine the reaction he's going to get. People are going to cheer the hell out of him, and they did. And what did WWE do? Flip. And unfortunately, I don't think it was for the best. But, so that's my wrestling nostalgia portion of the show, guys. I really encourage you, check out Triple H's return from January 7th, 2002 in Madison Square Garden. Listen to the reaction. Listen to the commentary. My God, Jim Ross just adds to anything. He could make anything sound interesting, the way that he sometimes dictates things, and the pacing of his voice and his cadence, everything. He has that special gift, and I really think that Jim Ross added a lot to that as well, saying that he was, for 8 long months, this is the loudest I've ever heard Madison Square Garden. All of that's real. I really believe that Jim Ross believes what he's saying there. So, and by the way, Jim Ross heading to AEW, love it. I love it. I think that AEW is going to... The key for AEW... Wow, I'm getting off track. But the key for AEW will not be, can we garner an audience and get people to watch our first product? Will they stay for our product and not try to be WWE 2.0, WWE Lite, not be perceived as the company that just takes the leftovers from WWE and brings them on board? And that's not what they're going for, and I love it. You may see some former stars, but they're not going to build around those stars and be looked at as second class. So I'm really excited for AEW. Man, it's going to up my workload if I start an AEW podcast, but I think that I'm really excited for it. They brought on some heavy hitters. Jim Ross, they've got over 40 guys signed. It's going to be a hell of a pay-per-view at Double or Nothing in a few weeks. So anyway, little AEW deal. But I know it's a WWE podcast. But again, I encourage you to go look at that. I'd encourage you to also check out, which next week I will be doing another return. This time, it's a return for The Undertaker at Judgment Day, when he interfered in the Triple H Rock 60-minute Iron Man match. And he returned as the American Badass. Not the Undertaker Dead Man. He returned as the American Badass character. And I'm going to be discussing the significance of that. One of those, again, another one of those moments that time stood still, and that I was like, wow. This is badass. And when he returned as basically a biker, how startling and jarring it was. I'm going to get to that as well all next week. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed the show. I know that these aren't as long as my normal shows are in terms of the reviewing of Raw and SmackDown. But I'll be back this week as we get closer and closer to Money in the Bank, which is scheduled for May 19th. Isn't that what Kane said? Don't say that date. We never knew why. I don't know why May 19th. I think it was May 19th. Kane didn't want us to say. I think it was like a storyline 10 years ago or something. Anyway, one more quick little last plug. If you guys want to get your ad on the show, I know you hear some ads. If you want some ads on the show, you want your ad on the show for anything that you're doing, whether it's a business, hey, if you're doing your own podcast, if you are running your own website for commerce or whatever it may be, there's really no limits other than adult content that I won't accept on this show. So check me out on Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com /Matt3166. That is my link to my gig, and you guys will be able to check me out there and get yourself on this show. If you want your ad and plug in the show, you can do so there. So that's all the plugs for tonight, I promise. Okay, well, again, happy Easter, everybody. I hope it's a great one. As always, I'll be back in just a few days. Until then, I'll talk to you next time.